Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this ASU GSV New Oriental China World pop-up session. I will be your MC this morning. I will be introducing each panel and the moderators. You may at this moment be thinking, this is a little bit strange. We're in California listening to a series of pop-up sessions about education in China. So why has a strange Englishman been chosen as MC? Well, the reason is simple. I've spent the last 2 decades based in China, working in the education industry on many levels. And for 14 of those 20 years, I've worked with the New Oriental group. So many of the speakers and moderators this morning are colleagues of mine and close friends of mine. So I'd like to kick off the session this morning, first of all, by thanking ASU GSV once more for the opportunity to partner with them. And first of all, then, I would like to welcome Mr. Michael Yu, someone who I'm sure most of you are very familiar with. But if you're not familiar with him, then I only need to say, within the China education industry, he's so iconic, they literally made a film about him. Mr. Michael Yu.
Again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks a lot for coming to China Pop-Up. I also have to say my thanks to ASU GSV for giving us this opportunity to present ourselves about like the Oriental English learning and technology plus education. I just want to tell 2 stories. One of the stories I know like a long time ago. The other story I just heard about yesterday. The one story I know a lot about is that everybody, did you go to the seaside to watch the kissing statue, which is called the Bob Hope? Yeah. Everybody came here to San Diego. That's the first place that people want to go to see the kissing statue. The story goes like this. Everybody knows like after the World War II, when the Japanese announced that they are going to surrender, then the soldier walked on the street, kissing a nurse that he actually first met and they never know with each other. And then when they kissed with each other, they departed. And actually this guy went to another place to find his real girlfriend. And the nurse was not his girlfriend. And then the nurse, after that, the nurse get married actually twice and have 3 kids. And she announced that it was she who is the real nurse, kissed by the sailor, by the soldier, like when she was like around like 65 years old. And then when this guy, when he was 80 years old, he announced that he was the soldier who was kissing the girl. And it's after almost like 60 years, you know. When he kissed the girl, he was only 19. He did not admit because he kept his marriage for all his life and he loved his real girlfriend, you know. But when I look at the statue, I was thinking like if this happened like somewhere, like for example, in China, if a soldier didn't know the girl and then walk on the street and kiss the girl, then the girl maybe will slap the boy and said he's a bastard. And then the boy maybe will put the military, punishment by the government or by the social, by the army. Because it's a special situation. Just after the World War II, Japanese announced the surrender to this world, that they are not going into war anymore. So this is a great moment that people become to understand each other, and that people have this kind of like what I mean, the center of education is that to make people more tolerant of what's happening and to make people more humane about what's happening. Then the other story I heard about is just yesterday. A sailor who, we rented a boat because I think the sunset of the San Diego is really beautiful. So we rented a boat. I put the Oriental people into that boat. So the boat owner, actually he said himself is not the owner, told us another story. It's about the Midway aircraft carrier. The Midway aircraft have nothing to do with Midway War because it was built up, the carrier was built up after Midway war, Midway battle with Japanese army. But he told, the carrier went into the Vietnam War, actually. When the American announced the retreat from the Vietnam, all the people have to fly to the aircraft from Saigon, because people were surrounded by the communist armies of Vietnam. And then all the helicopters moved, lots of people on the deck of a midway aircraft carrier. There are about maybe 7,000 people standing on the deck. Then in the evening, when a storm came, there was a small airplane carrying 5 people as a family. The father is flying the airplane with his wife and with 5 kids. All together, 7 people with 5 kids staying in that small airplane, flew out from Saigon, want to land on the aircraft. But the aircraft is crowded with people and with the helicopters. And the people can move to the next deck. But how can they move from the helicopters? So the army commander, the carrier commander, decided to shuffle off all the helicopters into the sea in order to clear the runway for that small airplane to land on the carrier. They shuffled about 10 helicopters into the sea, because they think the helicopter does not really need it because the war is already over. So they think people's life is more precious. So they cleared the runway, let the small airplane land on the aircraft, saved 7 people's life. But they destroyed the value of about $60 million helicopters into the sea. That means people's life is much, much more precious than anything else. Nowadays, we are cherishing animal life. We cherish the life we are living here in this world. We try to let everybody understand each other. But still, today, we have lots of battles, lots of conflicts between different religions, between different society, between East and the West. So what we are here today is for a better understanding of different nations, a better understanding of different culture, a better understanding of different ways of living this world. How can we keep our difference, but we can still, for everybody from different cultures, living a better life and a peaceful life, a mutual understanding life, actually. That's all education is about. So today, the China Pop we are talking about is about 2 things which can make people understand each other better. One is language. There are 2 main languages mostly used by this world. One is English, which is a truly global or international language, I think. You can see I'm not speaking Chinese. Even my Chinese is much better than English. But there are another language called Chinese language, which is also being used by 1.5 billion people all over the world. But mainly, up to today, it's still a local language, mainly in China. But no matter what language are you using, the function of language is not language itself. The function of language is to communicate, to carry messages, especially those good messages to other people. So even you cannot speak any English or you cannot speak any Chinese, my gesture, my look in my eyes can express my kindness, my hospitality, or my hatred. You can express anything from your body language, actually. But still, English is one of the best languages that can carry your message to other people all over the world. I can only speak English, though I learned some French in my university, but I forgot them all. But I still can walk all over the world, including Arabian countries, including Africa countries, and everywhere. If I can speak English, I can get served with food, with bed, with hospitality, with everything. So that's why Oriental is still doing English language teaching, one of the biggest. I think should be the only biggest English language training institute all over the world, because we have more than 2 million students studying English in Oriental every year. Because I totally believe that language is not language itself. Its language is all about understanding of human beings. And then another thing we are going to talk about today is about technology, AI, artificial intelligence, because we know that there are 2 things that help people most in our life. One is, communication. The other is technology. Technology helps us to communicate more easily. With an iPhone, smartphone, we can use WeChat, we can use WhatsApp, we can use whatever we want to use to communicate those people that are far away from you, to carry out a message that you want to carry out. So with technology plus education and plus language, miracles happen. So I hope that today, when we are talking a lot about this, we can discuss new ideas, new miracles that make all of us here better, make all of this world a better place to live in. That is our destination. That is what we want to do our best. So thank you very much. So enjoy this session. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Michael Yu, the founder and CEO of New Oriental. Next to the stage, I would like to invite Mr. Chen Zhuang, a colleague of mine, and he will now give a brief overview of the business of New Oriental. So, Mr. Chen Zhuang.
Good morning, everyone. It's such a big challenge for me to speak after my chairman. He's a legendary figure in the education sector in China, and he himself is being turned into a film, and he himself is such an excellent storyteller. So I'm not, but in the next 5 minutes, I'll walk you through a short film of what New Oriental is about. So in 5 minutes, I'll tell you 3 things. First, who are we? Second, what makes us different? And thirdly, what are we going to do? We are big, obviously. How big are we? In fiscal financial year 2018, we have over 7 million student enrollments with a massive organization of over 60,000 employees. Half of them are teachers because they are the heroes. They are the backbones for New Oriental. We have 89 schools across 77 cities in China. Within those schools, we have multiple learning centers so that students can come to nearest to receive tutoring or after-school tutoring, training with us. And the revenue size for the past 12 years is $2.8 billion US. Of course, we are small as well. So if you add up New Oriental, our biggest competitor in China, TLL, which is also one of the world's biggest, we made up only under 5% market share in China. And we talk about the rise of the middle-income families in China. With the rise of middle-income families, there is a surging demand for international or bilingual education in China. But within our own system, we have only 2 established bilingual schools, which obviously is insufficient to meet the demand. Every year, China has 17 million newborns in China, right? And then there's huge demand for kindergarten, for kid cares. But we only have, within us, at this moment, 31 kindergartens under New Oriental system, catering for the needs of only 8,000 students within our own system, which means there's huge potentials. There's lots of things that we can do together. That's why we're here. That's why we're in San Diego, to talk to you, to see what more can we do. So this is a brief semicircle that gives you a glimpse of the one-stop educational service that New Oriental is providing right now. 25 years ago, when Michael started New Oriental, we started our overseas test preparation in TOEFL with only 13 students. Now we have over 7 million student enrollments. But now we move on, we shift, because the market is shifting, the demand is shifting. We shift from overseas test preparation more and more to K-12 education. So that's why you can see we have POP Kids, primary after-school tutoring. We have YUAN, and luckily we have so many colleagues sitting here. Talk to them. They will tell you a different story, the real story, how we work so hard each day to provide services to millions of students, to the families. And out of that, technology getting more and more. For instance, English language learning is quite important, as Michael has already pointed out. In the old days, we teach English in the brick and mortar classrooms. Now, we have the online, virtual tutoring, linking Chinese students with teachers from US, Canada, and many other English language speaking countries. I'm happy to have my colleague, Mr. Chao Lei, the CEO for Bling ABC, which just started not long ago, to quickly build up their customer bases because they meet the demand for young children aged between 4 and 12 to receive the pure, authentic English language live at the fingertip. Give you a very glimpse about the revenue share. That will give you a snapshot of what we're doing right now. Obviously, K-12 is very important. That's what the Chinese parents and children care very much about that. Over 60% of that, still growing. English language learning is how we build our businesses. Our brand is strongly associated with, and we are proud of that. We're strengthening our leading position in English language learning, test preparation, but not only for cracking the exams that to help Chinese students to study in the US, more and more we are aware that the skills, once they're already on the campus in the US, can really survive and thrive in the foreign campuses. So that's why we're paying more and more attention to skills capacity building when the students are very young with us. More and more technologies, as I said, in the classroom. So this is one example, which the mobile technology we can link very efficiently with parents and the schools to give them a quick, immediate overview of how the children have been learning with us in the classroom. Because students spend very limited time with us at New Oriental, most of the time in the evenings and on weekends. We want to give them the best and most effective language learning or other subject learning with us. So technology is being used. Clickers used in the classroom, and I can my colleagues from the secondary after-school children will give you a very vivid example of how the technology has been used. Of course, there is more to come. So I have a colleague from the AI Institute, a research institute with us, will tell you how we are starting to use, to experiment. Lots of talk about AI technology here, not only in the US, in many other parts, corners, various kind of educational, exhibitions or conferences will talk about AI. We are on the journey, every single one of us. So that's our whole common goal. So what are key thinkings? What makes us different? When we talk about New Oriental, said, okay, we know you're training after-school tutoring. Yes, we are, because that's the first order demand that you have to meet. If you cannot give them a better, efficient way to improve their schools, which restrict the potentials, then the parents will not send their children to study with us. But of course, as Michael said, we need to go beyond teaching, which is about education. Michael has already, explained what does that mean to New Oriental and to him. Teachers, of course, are the backbones, as I said. Without them, nothing will come through. Students is everything that we do at the core, at the heart of all our services. We think from the students' personal points of view, we think and we act from the perspective from the parents and the expectations. Technologies, as we emphasized again and again. 25 years ago, when we started, there was no internet even. But now we talk lots of different things. Big data, cloud, machine learning. Lots of things are happening very rapidly. New Oriental was why we're here. What makes us different? Still, 25 years history, very young compared to many other big organizations in the world, but we are the oldest. We are the most established, providing the one-stop educational service in China. So talk to us. We have loads of experience to share. Then we have a wide range of diverse businesses covering not from cradle to grave, but to age 0, at least to age 30 plus. The growing path of a human's life, right? We want to focus on that. Technology-driven, more and more technology. I couldn't emphasize more. And my colleagues speaking after me were sharing their learning experience in AI. My personal story, I said I don't have a very splendid or exciting story, but I have my personal story. More than 20 years ago, I studied with New Oriental. At the time, To every classroom, New Oriental, there's a slogan, which is that, hew a stone of hope out of a mountain of despair, and you can make your life a splendid one. I like that. It's quite inspiring, but I have to admit, it has a heroic sentiment, right? It suggests you need to bite your teeth in order to achieve something. I like this one as well. It's short, it's simpler, but it gives you more hope, more inclusive. We embrace in the world. We want to make you a better version of yourself. Thank you very much. Those to come, and my colleagues will share you. My colleagues here from New Oriental, various kind of schools. They will tell you the tips about how to operate in China, and many other colleagues will share you more experience. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chen Zhuang. Now it's time for our first panel session, and the title of our first panel session this morning is AI Looks East. And in this session, a number of experts will highlight how AI is beginning to impact education in China and beyond. So I'd like to invite to the panel seating the moderator for this session, Mr. Chu Wei.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Wei Q from Oriental AI Research Academy. It's my great pleasure to moderate this panel. So we have three founders here, Mr. Qin Long, Mr. Chen Qing, and Mr. Yuan Miao. So let's start. Could you give a short introduction about yourself and your company first, please?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Zhuang. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Singsound. We are using AI technologies to help students learn English better. I was living in the US for 10 years before founding Singsound. I was a research scientist at Duolingo, and I also received my PhD on AI from Carnegie Mellon University.
I'm Chen Qing from Zhihuiliu, and our company is doing digital teaching materials to turn the paper textbooks of K-12 into digital software for students and teachers.
Hi, my name is Walter Yuan. I'm CEO and co-founder of Moblab. We build interactive behavioral games and then use AI technologies to help students make personalized education decisions. A quick story, and many of you, when you run into Mr. Yu, you may address him as Michael or Mr. Yu. I have to call him Professor Yu, because I took my first college English class from Professor Yu, and then later on I took my TOEFL with him. And so a lot of my going to study abroad, owing to the precursor of New Oriental. And then almost 30 years later, and Mr. Yu and Professor Yu and his colleagues at the Strategic Investment Group also invest in Moblab, the company I'm helping to build. So a lot of my journey has been tried to help with New Oriental.
Yep, me too. I had the same experience. I believe a lot of students who started in the United States graduate from Oriental before. So let's start with the first question. Based on the keywords of this topic, East, could you give us some opinion? What do you think the difference between China and Western countries, especially United States, when we applying AI into education?
Well, I think first of all, it's very different how people treat AI between, say, China and the US. In China, the opinions are really bipolar. Some people will think, well, AI can solve everything, every problem they have, while the others think AI just may be a matter of marketing tools. Well, in the US, back to Duolingo, where I was at Duolingo, what we do is we don't really think AI is something like you have to put into a product. What we do is we will think about whether this technology will help the users. How would they help the users? Does it improve the learning, or does it make the user come back more often to our apps? So that is something, that's the mindset. We are not treating AI technologies anything different than the design difference, than the graphic, than the UI. So it's just a matter of things you will make your app better.
I think it is internet innovation that is the different nations and cultures. For example, there is Amazon in America and we got Alibaba in China. Facebook versus Tencent. For AI in education, it is the same circumstance. The application of AI in education in China will focus more on helping students improve their test scores.
When you think about the two countries, I think, at least at this point, US still has arguably probably the best education system in the world, and it's probably most technologically advanced country. And so there's probably naturally less incentive for the government to invest more in, say, AI-powered education. Whereas in China, I think the government has very strong incentive to help the next generation to become technologically more competent. And also that incentive is from bottom up as well. Parents, I think, are very anxious to make sure their kids have access to the best possible education opportunities. And then when you think about the, like my colleague Qing just said, the education system is fundamentally different. China's, the very well-known college entrance exam is very different from how the Chinese, the college application process works here in the US. So inevitably, when you think about applications of AI in China, it's very much, like Qing just said, score, test, performance oriented, whereas in the US, you can think the AI approach can be focused on a much broader range of interventions. And the next thing you think about, when we talk about AI, you have to think about data. I think, US, the data collection is probably much more matured and open and organized. And China, volume is huge, and we have order of magnitude of students than probably anywhere else in the world, maybe outside of India. But the data is there, probably lack of digitization, lack of organization. So I think how to make sense of the data is still a challenge. And without that open access and transparency, it makes open research on AI more challenging in China. And also, when you think about how AI can change education in the two countries, probably in the US will be more bottom-up, more democratic, more privatization through individual companies like many of us here. But in China, I think it's more of a top-down systemic approach. And then finally, I think there are advantages bringing AI to education in China. When you have a tremendous amount of capital pouring into the field, hundreds of millions every year, and then you have a huge amount of data available from 0 to 19-year-old and beyond. And then you have a government which runs a very unique socialist market economy where when they want to do something, they can be very swift and decisive. I think these are all advantages for bringing AI to education in China.
Thank you. Very good insights. I really agree. Although the education system and data, they are quite different in two countries, but AI technologies are almost the same and should be shared internationally. So my second question is about AI virtual teacher, which has received much attention recently. How do you think AI teacher, the current status in China, and what's the next development? Could such kind of technology replace the real teachers in the near future?
So I'm the tech person, so I will say it from the technology background. I think the tech is not there yet. So to be honest, speech recognition is not perfect. Spoken language understanding is really hard. And you're talking about kids in very young age speak a second language, English, of course. So there are a lot of errors the technology cannot handle. And the user experience of such product is actually quite poor, I will say. I mean, even Alexa, even smart speakers, after talking to Alexa for maybe 5 minutes, you will think, oh my God, this AI is dumb, right? So I think, to be honest, currently the tech is not there yet, but in future it has really, it has, you can imagine if we can do this, how the technology can really change the whole horizon of education, especially language education in China. If the current companies building the products, if they can be patient, if they can keep improving the technologies, the products, make it to be more useful to the users, to be more user-friendly, I think there is a chance, there is hope, like we can do this, but probably not in 2 years or 3 years. I will say maybe between 3 and 5 years, and let's already be really optimistic about the time. So yeah, I think there's hope, but not now.
Okay, Mr. Chen.
There are two problems in K-12 field. One is that the supply of good teacher is scarce, and the second is the cost of supply good teacher is very high. I think AI virtual teacher has great value in solving these two problems.
Yeah, I really agree with my colleagues. There are examples now where AI can really help teachers. For example, VIP Kid has AI-based TAs that would help students personalize their homework, their classes. Liu Li Shuo didn't have AI TAs or teaching assistants, but they build virtual teachers. But I very much agree with my colleagues here. I think at this point, AI is still playing a role of supplementing and enhancing human teaching.
Good. Although there are still many limitations in this area, but looks like AI virtual teacher will be a very, very promising direction for applications in education. So another question is about data privacy and security. I think I heard a lot of discussions in this conference about this issue, especially when talking about AI. So how do you think this issue, especially in education, when we using AI technologies, please?
So I will use what we do as an example to explain about these security and privacy issues. So we are basically providing AI technologies as a cloud service to Chinese education enterprises. We have over 300 clients right now in China. So first of all, security and privacy, those are two things. They're not the same. So for security, the whole infrastructure of our cloud service is built upon the Amazon Web Service. So we are building on the basis of AWS, and we follow all the guidelines of AWS for security. So it's really, I think, one of the most secure services you can choose all over the world. For privacy, that's another thing. So for instance, we process a lot of the speech data, the recordings of students saying English sentences and words, but we don't save any information or any data about the identity of the students. So we don't know who they are, where they're from, and we only process the speech data itself. That's how we deal with privacy. So we don't save any information about the user. And of course, we will not do anything about the user. The mindset is we don't have to use user data to build our technologies. As long as we have the speech, we can improve our speech recognition, we can improve the natural language processing technologies. We don't have to use the user data.
Data security and privacy for students, parents, and teachers are important to the K-12 community. I think China is not good enough on this. The most important thing now is to strengthen the data security legislation in the field of K-12.
Yeah, so we probably all have seen or heard these invasive AI technologies being deployed in classrooms, either through facial recognition or computer vision, all the way to full capture of the entire classroom. So there's a lot of data being captured, and security, data security, and especially privacy is a very important issue, especially in a country like US, where privacy concerns and awareness is very strong. So my suggestion or my own experience at Moblab has been that if you work with student data, you need to be very aware of that privacy issue before you start even developing or thinking about your AI applications. And probably one of the best practices is to really get your hands wet and by working with a school. So we recently wrapped up a pilot, a predictive analytic pilot with University of Michigan. And through that 6 months process, we really learned what the school's concerns are, what we should do technically to make sure the data are completely de-identified, and who should have what access to the data. I think these are all really important. But just to end this on a brighter note, I think there's also a fundamental cultural shift. I think if you look back 20, 30 years ago, it's just unfathomable for someone to give up or give away so much data. Like people see, what hotel I book, what flights I'm going to take, and my health data. But the new generation or generations to come, I think they embrace this kind of data norm much better than, say, someone like me who grew up in the 70s and 80s. And I think if in exchange, they can get convenience where they know once they land which car rental place they can go to, which hotel they can go to, or in exchange for a lower health insurance premium, or even finding a better date, I think they are willing to share more. So that's just my take on it.
There is one more point I should touch on. I think when you talk about security and privacy, the regulations the government put on between China and the US is quite different. Back to Duolingo, we were making this product called Duolingo for Schools. Basically, it's for K-12 schools, and the teachers can use the product in their classroom. And there are a lot of regulations we have to follow because you're teaching like K-12 students, young kids, so there are a lot of things you have to follow the regulations. For instance, we are teaching languages, right? We teach Spanish, French, and there you cannot teach the word wine or beer in the class because those are young kids. They're not supposed to learn these words in a foreign language. But on the other hand, in China, the government started to look into this issue, but the regulations are very limited, and is a lot of time is more of the companies, what they do with the data, whether the company choose to follow the privacy or security guidelines or they not. Sometimes we know some companies even they sold the data to other third parties, and that had already happened a few times.
Yeah, totally agree. Any new technology is usually a double-edged sword, especially at the beginning for its applications. So maybe controlling it instead of rejecting it is the best idea. Yeah. For China, it's still a developing country. Not every city is as modern as Beijing or Shanghai. So as many researchers predicted for AI applications, how do you think this kind of technology can help lower tier cities, for example, like fourth or fifth, and also the students in those cities who underserved?
I think that's the whole point of AI for education. Every time when there is a new technology, they reduce the cost of bringing in the best education resources to people. For instance, when there are books, when you can print books, the cost of books just reduced dramatically, and then a lot of people can read books. And then you have internet, which can bring very good learning materials to all over the world. Say, I can watch online of Andrew Ning teaching AI just on Coursera. You cannot even imagine it like 10 years ago. And now it's AI. I think that's the whole point of AI. We are not just building AI technologies for the most affluent families. We are building it for everyone in China, for every student, every family in China. It's not just the first tier cities, not even the second and third tier. It's the fourth, fifth, sixth, and even the remote area, the rural area. As long as they have internet access, they have a mobile phone or they have a PC, they should be able to use AI to learn, to help them. I think that's how I started the company. That's why I do this.
Mr. Chen?
In my opinion, AI is the only and optimal solution to solve the problem of unbalanced education resources in the future. AI doesn't provide the best teachers, but it does provide a lot of teachers above average.
The only thing I want to add, probably, if you were in the morning session with Professor Michael Crow, he showed this slide where there's such a compelling and strong negative correlation between the percentage of students receiving Pell Grant and then the graduation rate. And I just want to emphasize negative correlation. So there's definitely a need to help serve, especially through technology, to bring the best teachers, best content to students who are underserved, underprivileged. And also, the economics sometimes we overlook, we're unaware of. The economics actually is there as well. If you look at a recent report by Morgan Stanley, they surveyed the households, say, from tier 3 and lower places in China. Actually, the consumption going to increase by threefold from, say, last year all the way to 2030 to reach $7 trillion. And then you compare households in these less served places compared to tier 1, tier 2 cities, they actually spend 19% more on education. So for those of us who think that we only need to focus in places in Beijing and Shanghai, we may want to think twice. These other places may have a bigger market, may have a stronger willingness to pay as well.
Sounds very positive, huh? Okay, we all hope AI can give more opportunities and benefits to students, especially in small cities, right? So since we only have 3 minutes left, could you give a brief vision about how AI can change the education industry in China in 5 years?
Well, I hope in 5 years, or maybe sooner, AI can bring the best education resources to every student in China. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, you can get the best education resource. You can receive the best education. I hope that can achieve even sooner than 5 years.
I think the change AI can bring to China's K-12 education in next 5 years is limited. But if put into 10 years, I think the change is huge. The biggest value of AI education for China's K-12 is to make education fair.
Oh, just want to add on to what my colleagues already shared. I think one particular area I think AI can really be helpful is grading and evaluation to make that more consistent, more robust, more accurate, and at the same time alleviate or free teachers to do more inspiring, creative work. And I think personalized, and this is something that Moblab has been doing in the past year or so. I think personalized guidance and recommendations through AI and behavioral data to help students tailor their education path so that they can find what's more suitable to them at an individual level, what classes they should take in high school, majors and schools they want to apply to for college, and eventually career choices and find life happiness. And then finally, I think AI, this is my personal experiences through my work at Moblab. I've traveled, I visited a lot of campuses, and I've run, this is a particular phenomenon in North America. There are these mega schools. If you haven't visited any, go visit some. There are campuses that host 40, 50. Arizona State has probably over 90,000 students. So this is where schools want to provide these students, especially those students most in need. They're falling behind. They're on the verge of dropping out. Schools want to help these guys, but it's hard to find them through human eyes. But this is a perfect problem for machines. So this is where I think machine learning can really help schools to pinpoint, how to better allocate school resources and how to develop more effective interventions for these students.
Thanks a lot. We hope we can work together, building the relationships, collaboration with you between Oriental. Let's change the world, change education by working together, by using such kind of technology like AI. Thanks a lot for attending this panel. Thank you.